The Unsung Symphony, empowering caregivers to compose their own masterpiece. Welcome to the BlackCEO Podcast, where we explore the hidden corners of human experience and shine a light on the extraordinary individuals who are changing our world. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that touches millions of lives yet often remains in the shadows: caregiving. We're not just scratching the surface, we're peeling back layers of misconception, guilt, and isolation to reveal a profound truth that has the power to transform lives. Our guide on this journey is the remarkable Darlene Thorne, a visionary advocate whose tireless work has revolutionized how we think about and support caregivers. Darlene isn't just talking the talk, she's walked the walk, turning her personal experiences into a beacon of hope for countless others. Her insights aren't just valuable, they're game changing, offering a lifeline to those drowning in the often overwhelming sea of caregiving. Now, I want you to pause for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine this. You're juggling a career, family commitments, personal aspirations, and the relentless demands of daily life. It's a familiar dance, right? Now, add to this intricate choreography the round the clock care of a loved one who depends on you for their very survival. This isn't just multitasking, it's a high wire act without a safety net. This, my friends, is the reality for millions of caregivers worldwide. They're the invisible backbone of our healthcare system, the unsung heroes who sacrifice their own well being for the sake of others. But here's the burning question that Darlene Thorne wants us all to grapple with. In our rush to care for others, are we forgetting to care for ourselves? Now, you might be thinking, well, isn't that just part of the gig? Sacrifice comes with the territory, right? But what if I told you that this mindset isn't just misguided, it's downright dangerous? What if I said that by neglecting their own needs, caregivers are actually compromising their ability to care for their loved ones effectively? This is where Darlene's message becomes a game changer, a paradigm shift that has the power to transform lives. She emphasizes three crucial points that every caregiver needs to hear, internalize, and act upon. First, self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. Second, there are resources out there to help, if only we know where to look and have the courage to reach out. And third, perhaps most importantly, caregivers are not alone in their journey. There's a whole community out there waiting with open arms. Let's break this down, shall we? First up, self-care. Now, I could almost hear the collective eye roll. Self-care? I barely have time to breathe, let alone take care of myself. But hear me out. The National Council on Aging has been shouting this from the rooftops for years. Caregivers who prioritize their own well-being are better equipped to care for others. Picture this. You're on an airplane and the flight attendant is giving the safety demonstration. What do they always say? In case of an emergency, put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others. Why? Because if you passed out from lack of oxygen, you can't help anyone else. The same principle applies to caregiving, but somehow we've lost sight of this fundamental truth. The NCOA suggests creating a caregiver bill of rights. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? But it's actually a simple yet powerful tool. It's about giving yourself permission to take care of you, permission to take breaks, to have a life outside of caregiving, to say no when you need to. It's about recognizing that you're not just a caregiver, you're a human being with needs and desires of your own. Let me share a story that illustrates this point. Sarah, a caregiver for her elderly mother, was burning the candle at both ends. She was exhausted, stressed, and on the verge of a breakdown. One day, she stumbled upon the NCOA's resources and decided to create her own caregiver bill of rights. She started small, just 15 minutes a day for herself. At first, she felt guilty, but soon she noticed something remarkable. Those 15 minutes recharged her batteries, made her more patient, more present. Her relationship with her mother improved, and she found joy in caregiving again. Now, I can almost hear the collective sigh of relief from caregivers everywhere. Finally, you're thinking someone gets it. But here's the kicker. Knowing you need self-care and actually practicing it are two very different things. That's where our second point comes in. Accessing resources. Let me introduce you to the Caregiver Action Network, or CAN. These folks are like the superheroes of the caregiving world. They've got resources coming out of their ears. Support groups, financial assistance, respite, care, you name it, they've got it. But here's the sad truth. Many caregivers don't even know these resources exist. Imagine for a moment that you're a caregiver who's been struggling alone for years. You're exhausted, stressed, and feeling like you're at the end of your rope. Now imagine discovering that there's a whole network of support out there just waiting for you to tap into it. It's like finding an oasis in the desert, isn't it? Let me tell you about John. He had been caring for his wife with Alzheimer's for 5 years, slowly watching his savings dwindle and his own health deteriorate. He was at his wits' end when a friend told him about CAN. Through their resources, he found a local support group, learned about financial assistance programs he qualified for, and even discovered respite care options that allowed him to take a much needed break. It wasn't just a lifeline, it was a game changer. But it's not just about knowing these resources exist, it's about actually using them. And that's where many caregivers stumble. There's often a sense of guilt associated with asking for help, as if it somehow makes you less of a caregiver. But let me tell you something, using these resources doesn't make you weak, it makes you smart. It makes you a better caregiver. Think about it this way. If you had a car, would you run it into the ground without ever getting an oil change or a tune-up? Of course not. You'd maintain it regularly to keep it running smoothly. Well, guess what? You're the vehicle of care for your loved one. You need regular maintenance too. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the feeling of isolation that so many caregivers experience. This brings us to our third point. You are not alone. I know it might feel that way sometimes. When you're up at 3 a.m. changing sheets or administering medication, it can seem like you're the only person in the world going through this, but I promise you, you're not. The University of California, San Francisco health system has been championing the importance of support groups for caregivers. And let me tell you, these aren't just feel-good chat sessions. These groups can be lifelines. They're places where you can share your experiences, learn from others who've been in your shoes, and most importantly, realize that you're part of a community. Let me share Maria's story. She was caring for her father with Parkinson's and felt like she was drowning in responsibility. On a whim, she decided to attend a UCSF health support group. Walking into that room was like stepping into a parallel universe. Suddenly, she was surrounded by people who understood her struggles, her fears, her small victories. She found friendship, advice, and a sense of belonging she hadn't realized she was missing. Didn't make caregiving easy, but it made it bearable. It gave her strength she didn't know she had. Imagine walking into a room full of people who just get it. No need to explain the exhaustion, the stress, the conflicting emotions. They understand because they're living it too. It's like finding your tribe, isn't it? And in that understanding, there's strength, there's comfort, there's hope. But here's the thing, these support groups, these resources, this emphasis on self-care, they're all useless if we don't take action. And that's where you come in. Yes, you, whether you're a caregiver yourself, know a caregiver, or just happen to stumble upon this talk, you have a role to play. If you're a caregiver, I want you to make a promise to yourself right now. Promise that you'll prioritize your own well-being. Promise that you'll seek out the resources available to you. Promise that you'll reach out and connect with other caregivers. It's not selfish, it's not weak, it's necessary. If you know a caregiver, reach out to them, offer support, even if it's just a listening ear or a home-cooked meal. Help them find resources in their area, remind them that they're not alone. And if you're neither a caregiver nor close to one, I still have a job for you. Spread awareness, share this message. Because the truth is, at some point in our lives, many of us will either become caregivers or need care ourselves. This is a human issue that affects us all. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but you don't understand my situation. I can't possibly take time for myself. And to that, I say, I hear you, I see you, and I challenge you to start small. Maybe it's just 5 minutes of deep breathing each day. Maybe it's joining an online support group that you can access from home. Maybe it's simply acknowledging that you deserve care too. Remember, this isn't just about you. By taking care of yourself, by accessing resources, by connecting with others, you're not just improving your own life, you're improving the quality of care you can provide. You're setting an example for other caregivers. You're contributing to a cultural shift that recognizes and values the vital role that caregivers play in our society. Darlene Thorne's message is clear. Caregivers are the unsung heroes of our world, and it's high time we start singing their praises. But more than that, it's time we start supporting them in tangible, meaningful ways. It's time we recognize that caring for the caregiver is not just a nice idea, it's a necessity. So, I leave you with this challenge. Whether you're a caregiver, know a caregiver, or simply care about this issue, take one step today towards better supporting caregivers. It could be as simple as sharing this message, researching local resources, or reaching out to a caregiver you know. Whatever it is, do something because in the end, we're all in this together. And to all the caregivers out there, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are seen, you are valued, you are not alone. Your work is important, but so are you. Take care of yourself with the same dedication and love that you show to others. You deserve it. As we wrap up this talk, I want you to imagine a world where caregivers are supported, valued, and empowered. A world where asking for help is seen as a strength, not a weakness. A world where self-care is as natural and necessary as breathing. This isn't just a dream, it's a possibility within our grasp. But to make this vision a reality, we need to act. We need to challenge the status quo. We need to rewrite the narrative around caregiving. And it starts with you. Yes, you. I challenge you to be the change. If you're a caregiver, start your self-care journey today. If you know a caregiver, reach out and offer support. If you're in a position of influence, advocate for policies that support caregivers. And if you're none of these, educate yourself and spread awareness. Remember, every great movement starts with a single step. Your action, no matter how small it might seem, can create ripples of change that transform lives. By supporting our caregivers, we're not just helping individuals, we're strengthening families, communities, and society as a whole. So let's rise to this challenge. Let's create a world where caregivers are celebrated, supported, and empowered. A world where the act of caring for others and for ourselves is recognized as the powerful transformative force it truly is. Because when we care for our caregivers, we're not just changing lives, we're changing the world. And that, my friends, is a goal worth fighting for. Let's make it happen together. Thank you.